If you're relocating to Colorado, you've probably Googled, how much do I need to earn to live here? And you've probably gotten a completely useless answer, because the truth is salary isn't actually the most important number. Your housing budget is. And here's what surprises many relocating buyers. The same budget can feel completely different depending on whether you're looking at Golden, Littleton, Lakewood, or Arvada. In fact, I've seen buyers start their search convinced they wanted one city and end up choosing another, not because it was cheaper, but because it simply fit their priorities better. So in this video, we're going to talk about what your budget is really buying in West Denver, why people are moving here in the first place, and how to avoid one of the biggest mistakes relocating buyers make. And before we jump in, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have more house, or would you rather have a location that supports the lifestyle that you want? Because by the end of this video, you probably have a different answer than you do right now. Now, before we get into the cities themselves, let's talk about why people are moving to Colorado. For some people, it's a job opportunity, a company relocation, a promotion, a remote work situation that gives them more flexibility. Now, for others, it's about being closer to family. Maybe their children moved here years ago. Maybe they want to spend more time with grandchildren. Maybe they simply want to be closer to loved ones. And then there are people making a lifestyle move. They're looking for mountain access, trails, outdoor recreation, an active lifestyle, and everything Colorado is known for. But regardless of why you're moving here, once the decision is made, the next question usually becomes, where can I comfortably afford to live? And that's where things start getting complicated. Because Colorado isn't the bargain it once was. Depending on where you're moving from, housing costs here may feel surprisingly affordable or surprisingly expensive. Now, I've worked with buyers relocating from California who feel like they're getting an incredible value. And I've worked with buyers relocating from parts of the Midwest who experience a little bit of a sticker shock. But the bigger question isn't whether Colorado is expensive. The bigger question is, where does your money go furthest for the life that you want to build? Because that's where Golden, Littleton, Lakewood, and Arvada start to look very different. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you the biggest mistake that I see relocating buyers make. They fall in love with a city before they understand what they're actually paying for. They decide, I want Golden, or I want Littleton. And then they try to force the numbers to work. But here's the reality. Your budget isn't just buying a home, it's buying a commute. It's buying convenience. It's buying access. It's buying weekends. It's buying a routine. And sometimes the city that you think you want isn't actually the city that gives you the best overall experience for your budget. And that's not settling, that's being strategic. Now, I'm intentionally not talking about exact price points because markets certainly change. Inventory changes, interest rates change, and everyone's financial situation is certainly different. What I'm talking about here are the trade-offs that buyers tend to encounter. Because understanding the trade-offs is what helps you make a better decision. So let's start with Golden. Golden has a tremendous amount of emotional appeal. People visit Golden and they're immediately understanding why it's so popular. You have the foothills, Clear Creek, a vibrant downtown, restaurants, coffee shops, community events, trail access, mountain access, and a strong Colorado identity. Now, Golden often feels like the Colorado lifestyle that people imagine when they first start researching a move. But here's what your budget is often paying for in Golden. The access. You're paying for the proximity to the foothills. You're paying for the access to trails. You're paying for the downtown Golden. And you're also paying for the ability to step into that environment every day. And well, for many buyers, that's exactly what they want. But here's the question. How often are you actually going to use those things? Because if you're paying a premium for its location, it's important to know that you're getting value from it. And, well, that's where some buyers start looking at alternatives. Now let's just talk about Lakewood for a minute, because Lakewood is often one of the most practical communities in West Denver. And that's not a criticism, it's actually one of its greatest strengths. Lakewood offers flexibility, different housing styles, different neighborhood environments, convenient access to downtown Denver, oh, and you've got convenient access to the foothills, and strong commuting options. Now, if you're relocating for work, Lakewood's proximity to places like the Denver Federal Center can be a major advantage. And then there's Belmar, which many people view as Lakewood's downtown district. You've got shopping, you've got restaurants, events, seasonal activities, and a lot of energy that's concentrated in one location. But now Belmar feels very different from downtown Golden or Old Town Littleton. It's a modern mixed-use district, not a traditional historic downtown. And that's an important distinction because neither is better. They're simply different. And, well, understanding which environment feels right for you certainly matters. Now here's something that I see all the time. Buyers start saying they want Golden. Then they start comparing what their budget buys in Golden versus Lakewood. And well, sometimes they realize that they can get more flexibility without giving up access to the things that they enjoy most. And that realization surprises a lot of people. All right, now let's move on to Littleton, because Littleton tends to attract buyers who appreciate character, particularly around Old Town Littleton. You've got local restaurants, coffee shops, community events, historic charm, trail access, and in certain areas, a walkable downtown environment. Littleton also benefits from the light rail access, which can be an important factor for some commuters. And while many buyers appreciate the balance between established neighborhoods and modern convenience. So what are buyers often paying for in Littleton? Well, they're paying for character, they're paying for atmosphere, they're paying for a sense of place. And well, for many relocating buyers, Littleton simply feels comfortable the moment that they arrive. But again, it's important to ask yourself, how much do those things matter to me? Because, well, understanding your priorities is what helps you understand value. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you which city surprises relocating buyers more than almost any other. And it's probably not the one that you're expecting. That city is Arvada. Arvada often starts out as a backup option, and then it becomes the place buyers end up loving. And why is that? Well, because it offers a really interesting balance. You've got Old Town Arvada, you've got the restaurants, local businesses, community events, light rail access, strong connectivity throughout the metro area, and depending on where you live, relatively convenient access to Boulder. And that's something that many relocating buyers don't initially consider, because Boulder is an incredible place to visit, work, and spend time. But it also comes with some of the highest housing costs in Colorado. So for some buyers, Arvada becomes a way to maintain access to Boulder without taking on the costs that are associated with living there. And that's one reason Arvada consistently surprises people. It's often the city they weren't planning to buy in and then end up loving. Now, here's the part people miss. The most expensive option isn't automatically the best value, and the least expensive option isn't automatically the best value either. Because you know what? Value is personal. For one buyer, value means trail access. For another, it means a shorter commute. For someone else, it could mean access to the light rail. And for another person, it means maximizing the amount of home that they can purchase. This is why comparing cities solely on price rarely works, because what you're really buying is how you want to spend your time. And one thing that consistently surprised me was how many buyers change their minds once they actually spend time in these communities. The city they can comfortably afford often ends up being the city that they enjoy the most. Not because it's cheaper, but because it supports the life that they actually are trying to create. And that's a really important distinction. Because if you're moving to Colorado, don't assume that because you can afford a city, you'll automatically enjoy living there. Now, certainly budget matters, but so do the commute patterns, the airport access, weekend activities, mountain access, trail access, daily routines, and how you actually spend your time. Those things matter just as much as the home itself. Now, I've worked with buyers who started their search convinced that they wanted one city and ended up choosing another. Like I said, not because one was better, but because once they understood the trade-offs, a different community simply fit their priorities better. And honestly, that's the goal. There isn't one perfect city. There are simply different trade-offs. The key is choosing the trade-off that matters least to you. So if you've been asking, how much do I need to earn to move to Colorado? I think there's actually a better question. What kind of life am I trying to create? And what housing budget supports that life comfortably? Because two buyers making the exact same income may choose completely different cities. And both can be making the right decision. One may prioritize Golden, another may choose Lakewood. Someone else may fall in love with Littleton, and another one, they may discover that Arvada just gives them exactly the balance that they've been searching for. So now that you have a better understanding of what your budget might buy across Golden, Littleton, Lakewood, and Arvada, the next step, it's figuring out which community actually fits your lifestyle. That's exactly why I created my Where You Should Live in West Denver playlist. It compares Golden, Littleton, Lakewood, Arvada, and several other communities to help you narrow down which area may be the best fit for you. I'll be sure to link that playlist right below. Until then, remember, life is short, live somewhere awesome, and be well. We'll see you next time.